Welcome back to Mixing Up Success. Today, I get to sit down with someone who has been a part of my business and life for years, Nikki Smith of East Fork Baking Company. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you for having me.
Nikki lives right here in Hood River and runs a solo, home-based bakery that has quietly become one of the most trusted baking businesses in our community. Nikki and I go back to ordering cakes from her, sharing kitchen space, teaching classes together, yay donuts, raising kids alongside each other, and showing up for one another through highs and lows of running small food businesses. From sharing equipment and troubleshooting bakes to those only another baker understands moments, Nikki has been a constant, steady presence behind the scenes of my own business journey. If you've ever needed a last-minute cake, a calm voice when an order goes sideways, or someone who truly understands the brain power and heart that goes into custom baking, there's a good chance Nikki has been that person. She's helped our community celebrate countless milestones, and I'm so excited to share her story, wisdom, and perspective with you today. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you.
All right, so start by telling us a little bit about East Fork Baking and how you got started.
East Fork Baking started a couple years before COVID, and I'll back way up. Baking has always been in my family. I grew up baking with my grandma and my mom, and my grandpa cooked. So we were always in the kitchen. We were a kitchen family. And
I think that's where you and I connect really from the beginning is around food.
yes,
It's not just baking, it's like valuing good food and how it brings people together.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our kitchen was the heart of the home.
Yeah.
We ate out, of course, but
Yeah.
we always had stuff.
Yeah.
And an ingredient household.
Yes.
If we wanted
yeah,
cookies,
yeah.
there wasn't a bag of cookies. We had to make
You had to
them.
make them.
Yeah.
Same.
And it was also my stress reliever.
Ah.
I baked as a hobby, and then who doesn't want cookies or muffins so I was able to give them away and spread the love and still have that hobby that kind of let my brain check out.
Yeah. Well, if you've listened to my podcast and Nikki knows this, that's how I started.
Yep.
I was super stressed and baking became a way to quiet my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I recently told somebody I need to work on my meditation. And then I realized, wait, I spend like hours a week meditating, creating cookies.
100%.
Like it is meditation.
Yes. Yep.
So then I was like, nah, I'm going to check that box.
Right. Yeah. Yes. I meditate
Yeah.
with frosting in my hand.
Okay. So you started hobby, as many of us do,
Mm-hmm.
giving away your products. How did you switch to selling?
It started with, so as I got older, left college, my friends started getting married. It was like, well, hey, or I need a cake for a birthday or whatever. And I love to do that. And then it was friends of a friend. And then I had to figure out, what am I charging? Because I don't know this person anymore. And it kind of slowly snowballed into that. And our community, I've been here for almost 20 years, a little over 20 years. And our community has been so great with supporting local artists in general.
Yeah.
Whether you're a food artist or you paint so people started searching out like, oh, hey, there's a person in town that does this or, and they would come find you. And it was great. And I worked at a local business in retail where I saw and met so many people, and that was great. And it just kind of started coming my way.
Yeah. I think most bakers that start a business, and you can probably attest to this, never underestimate the power of word of mouth.
Yep.
Right? Because that's how we all start.
Yeah.
It's like we start with our friends and our family, and then they recommend us, and then it's like friends of friends. And then pretty soon, before we know it, it's people we have no idea existed.
Right.
And we're like, oh, we actually have to have our stuff together.
Yeah, definitely. Like, oh, what's a dozen cupcake cost?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Let me get back to you.
I'll be back to you tomorrow.
Yes. So, and then, branching out into, I had friends and acquaintances who were wedding planners.
Oh, yeah. Great connection.
Yes. And that kind of, there was cake people in town. There was people who did beautiful cakes, but there wasn't the kind of trends that were starting to form in the wedding industry where dessert tables.
Right.
Not just a cake.
Well, and we live in a destination wedding area. I mean, hundreds of people a year come here to get married. And so leaning into that industry was probably great.
100%. And most of my weddings that I did early on, I never met the couple that was getting married. A lot of it was email and phone, and they weren't from here.
Right. They were destination, coming here to get married.
Yep.
Yeah. So having that connection in that industry, I talk to flower farmers that are like the same way, right? It's like, as long as you can make those connections with the industry, that's all you need.
Yep. And those clients are one-time clients. Usually they're here for an event, whatever they need, and you don't really see them, hear from them again. And so that's a different fork in the business.
Yeah, but I think what's awesome about that, and, from a business perspective, is that, well, I remember I got married. I'm celebrating 15 years coming up. And I remember the minute you said wedding to anybody, it was like, that'll be an extra fee.
Yep.
And I was like, what?
Yep.
What does that mean? Well, as a baker who's served some weddings, I get it. I 100% get it. It's complicated, and the expectations for that type of event are extremely high. And that added pressure means it's going to cost more. So from a business standpoint, though, it's usually a profitable avenue. And if you can figure out a system that works for you, it's a great business to be in.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one. And it evolves every year. Because you're following trends, you're following price adjustments depending on ingredients, you're following all of it.
What's the 2026 wedding trend in the baking that you've seen?
Kind of cakes that are on the cake side of things, cakes that are vintage, like a modern vintage is kind of what I've noticed.
I have been seeing a lot of vintage cakes coming back. Yeah.
And then the long cakes, like if you have a long table, there's this. So
I haven't seen this one.
Yeah. And it looks really cool. I mean, aesthetically, which is for me, half of my business. You eat with your eyes first.
Right.
I love some of these trends.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it gives you something like different each season. That's cool. So tell us about other sides of your business, because you don't just do weddings. You have a variety.
Yes. So I started, once again, our community brings people together. I had been asked in years previous, before I started doing this full time, about wholesale or coffee shop item. I didn't know how to get into that really. I like to sleep in, or I did before I had kids. So I was like, no way, I'm not getting up early. Like, no, thank you. My job that I worked full time at, I didn't have to be there till later in the morning. So I fought the morning hard, and then I had kids, and then I didn't have a choice in what time I woke up.
Yep.
And was up earlier in the day. And then it kind of started circling in my brain again of, maybe I can do this. If I'm going to be up this early, maybe I can make something. That thought in my head and the universe. We had a mutual friend. There was a friend that owned a coffee shop, or she was not a friend yet.
Sure.
I did not know her, but we had a mutual friend, and we both had kids that went to daycare.
Perfect.
And said, hey, this person has a coffee shop that they're doing, and they need pastries. And hey, you're a baker and you're looking to expand your business. And we ended up talking, and that was my first kind of real wholesale study.
I'm glad that you share that, because I was just talking with my marketing manager yesterday, and I told her it takes one person believing in you. And I have had that in cookies, where it took one person to say, you can do this, you can sell cookies. And I've had that in other things. And I think that's all it takes is one person to say, you can do this, and plant the seed that you can.
Yep.
So,
and I feel like I'm the friend who's always like, you should do this, go do this.
Yeah, you're telling me that all the time.
When it happens to me, I'm like, well, we're just, the water's nice over here right now. It's calm. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard. Well, starting a business out of nothing is so much work. No one can prepare you. You can think you've got it, but it's going to throw you curveballs like you've never seen before. And so the idea of like, once you kind of have something figured out and thinking, well, I'm going to do more, or I'm going to try this, it's hard.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and my business started out as a side hustle. It was a hobby. I wasn't looking to pay bills necessarily with it. It was like, oh, okay, I have an extra $100 this month to put it towards groceries. Or with baking, you can't just buy 12 muffin liners. So, I took some of that money that I was making and bought more product,
inventory.
Cake toppers, bought all these cake boxes. And eventually, after doing it long enough, I had a lot of extra supplies that weren't food supplies. It didn't go bad.
Right.
And then I kind of started having like, oh, well, I have a lot of sports themes. I'm going to do sports cupcakes, or I have a lot of superhero themes. And then it turned into that to, okay, well, I'm consistently selling stuff a month that I can bank on. I'm going to have X amount a month. And then, well, I'm going to buy a new mixer.
Yeah.
I'm going to save and buy a new oven, and so,
Yeah.
but I still wasn't paying myself necessarily.
But you didn't start by needing that. I think
No.
you and I can both think about that, because when I started, I also was it was a hobby side. I didn't price it to make money. I priced it to cover my costs and just have something fun. And then it was like, well, it kind of took off. And then I was like, well, I probably should make a little bit more and look at this pricing a little bit. And then a year in, and I was like, wow, like that was a lot of extra money on the side. Like maybe I could do this full time. When you don't start with that mindset, you have to like evolve into changing things.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't like I'm going to open a bakery and I'm looking to be profitable by this time. But I feel like I was good at running other people's businesses.
Right. You were managing other businesses.
And I had other businesses. I opened a little t-shirt retail shop with some friends years ago. Volleyball was big in my world. So I ran clinics and had my own business doing that. So there are things that business wasn't unfamiliar.
Right.
But like you said, yes, I never got into this saying, I'm going to open a bakery in 5 years
Well, I've shared that Dani's Kitchen Shop started in 2015. So I'm in year 11. And for the first 4 years, bakery wasn't even in the radar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that wasn't the business model. It's just that cookies happened to come along and provide the stable income that I needed to actually bring it to life.
Right. My biggest fear pivoting was I did not want to lose the love and the therapy I got out of baking.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I did not. Yeah. And I had jobs, and that was like, my parents hated this part about me. I did not go after jobs for monetary reasons. Of course, I needed to pay my bills.
Everybody has a baseline.
I needed to pay but I lived pretty low on the food chain. But I didn't want to be in a cubicle. I didn't want to be, my degree that I had I'm working in corporate settings, or I'm working, that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I knew ahead of time, I'm like, that wasn't my path. And so working retail, working at the mountain as, in the snowboard park, or working, coaching and all these things, but you don't make a lot of money at that. So it's like you usually have 3 jobs of things that you love, but then you're working all the time.
Yeah. And piecing it together. In an episode, I stumbled across a journal that I wrote in 2016, and I just needed it as a prop for a photo shoot. And I opened it up and I shared that, it was the 10-year mark. And I actually had wrote out a 10-year plan. And in that 10-year plan, like year 10 was to be self-employed in a career that I love. There was no bakery. There was no Dani's Kitchen Shop. It was literally the goal of building a life and building income to support that life in something that I'm passionate about. And we'll be the first to say, you're not going to get rich as a baker.
Definitely not. No.
No, I mean, it's a food product. It only lasts so long, and people only want to pay so much and all of that. But I think that's why you and I connect so much, is that we're here for the life and building a business that supports the life.
Correct. And I feel like for me personally, and I fought it. It was funny. My husband and I talked before we had kids. Like, I do not want to be a stay-at-home mom. Oh my gosh, the women that do that, kudos to you. But that was for me. I know I needed to work and to have something. I quit my job before COVID. It was time. Or just stepped away, and my kids were going to school, public school, so it was like, okay, how am I going to be there to school pickup? And
can I just say that life, it's really hard when kids come into the picture and you're balancing it all. But then when you hit that public school, it's like no one ever told you school gets out at 2:00.
Right? And you're going to have every third Mondays off because of something. And, and then your kid's sick. So you got to like not go into work. And
actually it wasn't until my kids hit public school that I was like, this is really hard to work full time.
Yes. Yes. But then you're working full time at home.
Yes.
More than full time. So it's just this whole.
Yeah. So I know have mentioned in the past that you thought about having a retail space or a retail bakery
Yep.
in town. And can you share with our audience like your thought process, because you switched away from that and went all in on building a home commercial bakery out in part of your new home build?
Yep. Working retail, I love interacting with people and I love the face-to-face, and I've worked in restaurants, I've worked in clothing retail, I've worked in sports retail. So there's just that tangible going into somewhere and seeing these beautiful pastries. And I mean, anytime I travel, I will find the nearest bakery, I will find the nearest donut shop or something, because there's so many cool things. So that to me was like, okay, that's how you do this to be able to make a living, to be able to make it worth it.
Yeah. I've recently heard somebody say they equated being a successful bakery to having a retail space.
Yeah, a storefront, brick and mortar.
Storefront.
Someone can walk in. But I feel like with the shift with everything, with technology, COVID obviously changed everything.
Yeah.
The ability to get your product out there. And for me, learning the bakery business as far as kitchens, commercial kitchens, licensing, what you need to be able to sell your products, all of this, I kind of realized that's a lot of work and a lot of overheads.
Yes.
And instant overhead,
Yep.
not a gradual ease into it. And so I started looking around, can I rent kitchen space instead of, because I did a lot of it out of my home, and that's fine when you're customer direct. But if you want to start venturing out of that sandbox, you got to
you went through a phase of, you've rented a lot of different kitchen space, and you've worked in a lot, which is a unique experience because you know like what works and what doesn't.
And I've had there was a gal, Lindsay, got in town.
Yeah.
She was so generous, and I kind of picked her brain, and she let me. That was the first home kitchen I went into. She turned her garage into a commercial kitchen, and I was like, "Can I come over, please, and snoop around?" And
can I just make a plug on Lindsay? Because I've shared this with her. She opened a South Bank kitchen years ago and hired me as a high school student my senior year of high school. And I worked one summer, her very first summer open. And she ultimately has influenced my baking career significantly. So kudos to Lindsay.
Yeah, I remember going for lunch every day up there. It was like fresh food, good food. I don't mind paying a little extra for that. The staff was amazing and always welcoming. And so she was the first like home kitchen I snooped around. And it's like, okay, what does this take? Do I need commercial everything? Do I need a commercial fridge? Do I need a commercial this? And learning the rules. And you don't need that. You don't need any of that. You need the cleanliness and health standards, but you don't need special equipment. And that for me was like, oh, okay, this might be possible. And then renting space from different caterers in town. And those went back to my connections, just knowing a lot of local people. And then kind of meeting you, and people are like, hey, you should talk to this person. She's building a kitchen, and she's, and then when you and I met, it was like when we met in the park. Yeah. We talked for so long, and it was just instant like, yes, I found my people.
Yeah, 100%.
And so learning that and realizing I did not have to have a storefront to be able to do this made it for me more palatable to be like, to give myself a little more grace. Like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can fail maybe, but I know what it takes to do retail and how much investment it costs. And so the idea of it was great, but I was not ready. And I knew I wanted to have kids or had small kids at the time. And that shifted the whole thing of I need to be around.
I have yet to meet a mother that has had children and not had a shift of expectations and reality.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, before I had kids, I was like, I'm going to go back to work in like 2 weeks. I'm going to be fine. And everyone around me, especially the moms, were like, okay, sure. Good luck with that.
But what I want to say, Nikki, is that I've always been very passionate about careers and very career driven and throwing myself in. And there came a point when I had kids that I never thought I would hit where I was like, I don't care. I do not care. What is the bare minimum I need to live?
Yes.
And that was my shift.
Yes. And my shift too came from, I mean, I knew I wanted to work, but I knew I was going to break even with paying daycare for 2 kids and working in the Hood River. There's not a lot of big corporate jobs. So you're working service industry jobs or small businesses. So, it was like, okay, at what point is this worth it for everybody around me and myself?
Yep.
Like, so I had to kind of let go a little bit and reevaluate my priorities and figure out how can I do this, but still be around, but still get the fulfillment, still have purpose that I feel like I need. And
yeah.
So the shift happened and it was good. And then it was like, okay, I have all this stuff now. I need to get organized.
Right.
Now this is in my backyard. Okay.
Yeah. Now I need a plan.
Yes. A
Be able
little
to
more than
function.
just I'm doing random things here and there. And,
Yeah.
you know.
So, okay, let's fast forward. What does your business look like today? Full-time, self-employed, what does it look like? You know, percentage-wise, maybe wholesale, direct custom orders, weddings. What does it look like?
So that shifted too recently. So I've had a lot of changes in the last 6-8 months. Like you said, built a house with a kitchen. I did a licensed commercial kitchen, pretty much took half our garage.
Yeah.
I was been collecting appliances over the last 3 years, knowing I'm doing this. And so any fridge I see on sale or anything. And so that has been amazing. Not so much, I didn't take more business right away, but just the efficiency of my space.
I can attest to that too.
Yeah.
When I built out a commercial space dedicated for my business, the efficiencies were like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Just like, I was like, oh my, I can run this
You didn't
business.
change anything you did.
No.
You were still doing the same product. You were still doing the same amount of products.
Which then allows you to scale a little bit more
Yep.
because you have it dialed in and the efficiencies allow for you to scale.
Right. And make it to where, for me, I could sit and be like, okay, where do I want to grow my business? Because obviously I have more overhead now with a newer space.
Yeah, it costs more.
But the efficiency is where you can make that up. I feel like in business, you don't control a lot, but you control payroll.
Yeah. I always tell people we never touch the cookie from the time it hits the tray to the time until we pack it. That's where you make your margin. You have to dial in the efficiencies.
And baking's a hard thing to figure out too, because when I'm making a cake, I'm doing other things while that cake's baking. So even though that cake takes...
Oh, I know. It's so hard to track your time.
You know, so it was like, okay, well, so this cake cost me X amount to bake, but I also did muffins while this was baking and packaged this while that was baking. So I kind of triple down in this hour.
So tell us what you're thinking, what 2026 looks like for East Fork Baking.
Yes. So I have opened up a few more wholesale.
Okay.
So I do coffee shops is kind of what I've leaned into predominantly for my wholesale.
Sure.
And the reason I did that is similar products.
Yes.
And that has helped me keep consistency. And that was my big thing, is how do I bake where it's not pulled out of the oven and served to someone right away? I want it to taste good. And so I would give blind taste tests to my friends. I'm like, try this, try this. What do you think of this? They didn't know that this was frozen or this was fresh or this was, you know, par baked. Or so I did a lot of testing with people.
I probably was one of them.
Yes, you were. And just got feedback because I want to know, good or bad. I, you know, and everyone's taste buds are different. We kind of talked about this a little bit. Everyone, I know what I want that to taste like, and it might taste different to someone else because their taste buds are different. You know, so trying to find a product that was well received for the most part, because I've had products where they look really good and they don't taste good.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had products where it looks a little rough, but it was like, oh my goodness, that is,
tastes
can
really
I have
good.
2 more of those? So, you know, I think you got to find what that good mix. So wholesale is great. I do wholesale for fruit stands. I do granola, which is for me finding shelf stable products to add to my mix. So I was doing.
So you can batch them.
Yes. And I was doing granola for my kids.
Yeah.
Because certain things, I mean, I love sugar. Certain things just have a lot of it. So you got to kind of pick and choose your battles of what it's worth. And so that is the wholesale map. And then I still do custom. And I feel like they're in my bakery, they're kind of 2 different businesses.
Yes.
And
well, I would define it as 2 different customers, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's, and when I look at my business, I have like 10 different customer avenues, right? And we are always trying to dial in the customer, and custom baking within itself has multiple lanes.
Yeah. And when I kind of went out and figured out what am I? I am a custom baker. I do small batch. Some of the stuff I repeat. A lot of my cake designs or dessert designs, I really don't repeat. I have a lot of customers who give me free reign. And I love that they trust me to be like, hey, I want a cake that has flowers and this color's rustic. Do your thing.
Well, you're a proven bakery in our community. I don't know anybody that knows of you that wouldn't just say, "We'll just have Nikki do that. She'll figure it out. She's amazing. Just turn her loose." Everybody says that.
Yeah, and it's kind of scary, but I love it. Thank you, the internet for, I am not a professionally trained baker.
Same.
I did not go to school for it. I've taken one baking class in my life, and that was in Paris. I did a French pastry class with my family. That was my one thing when I went there. And so I would say like imposter syndrome kind of hovers over me a little bit. I'm a confident person, but I also care a lot what people think about my product. And I've had negative stuff sometimes. Everyone has. I know my product is not for everybody, or people would say, why is this cake so expensive? And, it's okay. And I have learned to kind of like embrace that instead of fear that.
Well, I think when we become a little more seasoned in our businesses, it gets easier. It's never easy to receive negative feedback, and I struggle with it to this day. But when you can remind yourself that there's no possible way you can serve everyone, it's a lot easier to just say, okay, well, I hope you find your baker.
Yeah. And I think early on I've learned, and this went back to just being in customer service for so long, I have a good radar.
Yeah.
And I know
this isn't going to work.
No, but I know I need sometimes to get out of my comfort area of, I don't work with fondant a whole lot. There's so many different ways to decorate cakes. And for me, I kind of leaned in. And fun fact, I did not do cakes early on. I was scared to death of cakes. I did a lot of cupcakes.
Right.
Because if I dropped one, guess what? I always made an extra 4 of them over here just in case.
Right.
Or I didn't want to mess up someone's wedding. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine if my cake collapsed? That would.
Hey, I don't really do weddings. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah. So
I have received a lot of feedback that I've ruined weddings. So I'm just like, I just don't think it's for me.
Yeah. Yes.
I get it.
So I didn't do cakes for a long time, especially big cakes.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different animal. You got to transport them. You got to support them. People stack on site. I don't. And so, it's just kind of getting out of that fear or comfort zone. But I also have had amazing customers who trust me, a lot of return customers. And that is the thing on the custom side. There are kids that I've done every single one of their birthday parties.
That's what I mean about
and I love
being
it.
Trusted bakery in our community, because so many friends and family, you have bailed me out of so many birthday shenanigans that I'm like, Nikki, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I mean, you've brought me frozen cake so that I can scramble together a kid's birthday cake. And you've saved me. And you've done that for so many people.
I always have cake.
Yeah.
I always have cake in the fridge.
That's why I call you.
But that's been the one thing that has helped. And here's another fact. I don't do a lot of practice cakes.
Yes.
I wish I could. Oh my goodness, I wish I could. And there are people who have kind of like practice cakes and they'll scrape the frosting off and keep redoing them. They don't sell them, but they're just practicing. I am busy with life. And everything to not do those. And sometimes I'll do them for fun if I do. But so when I am able to branch out a little bit more, or a client brings me a fun idea. I remember also the first time I made French macarons. We've talked about how finicky some of these are and different. I danced in my kitchen. I gave myself a happy dance when I pulled them out of the oven. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And the very next time I made them, I failed.
I know. Well, you and I for 2 years have been going back and forth on macarons and their finickiness and all of the things. And literally every successful batch, I send you a picture.
Yeah, you got to throw yourself those victory parties, because in baking, you could have a cloudy day and your stuff doesn't turn out.
Yeah.
Or you just totally forgot to put the baking soda in and you're like, what is wrong with this?
They say that, baking is science and all of that. But I truly believe that your heart has to be in it.
Yeah.
Because I know when I'm distracted, my stuff just doesn't turn out.
Yeah. I've walked away from decorating cakes because I'm not in the right headspace.
100%. I also have struggled as a custom bakery with being in the right headspace to be creative all the time. I think that's one thing I actually would love to touch on as a custom baker, the expectation that you have to be so creative all the time. And there are weeks when I just can't do it. And it comes out in my work and I know it. And I know when that work goes out the door, that it may not hit well.
Yeah. I have learned I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I have a very high standard for myself. And yeah, I've sent stuff out where I'm not totally unhappy with it, but I know I could have
Yes.
done
Same.
a little better or didn't quite, but then that very afternoon a customer sends me an thank you so much. It's beautiful. It's what I wanted. And so that kind of helps me be a little easier on myself.
What I've found is probably 95% of the time, the customer's not disappointed.
No.
It's us being disappointed in ourselves.
Totally.
Because we thought we could do more.
And this is food. I can't just crumple up a paper and throw it away.
Yeah.
I watch artists. I cannot draw to save my life. I am a horrible artist, but so this is kind of my artistic outlet. But I also had to lean into my style.
Yes. I was just visiting with a young baker recently, and I shared this with you, that she and I could take the exact same recipe, and while the result will be very similar, it's not going to be the same.
Yes.
Every baker has a different technique, a different style, and that's what makes us really unique as small bakers.
Yeah. I didn't know what my style was until I started doing a few of them, and they all kind of turned out similar. I'm like, well, I guess that. And so for me, it's like that rustic, elegant style. It gives me the flexibility to experiment a little more with design and not be so. Baking's very proper and constrained and measuring, and I want things to be playful, but I get sometimes too, customers want it to be very neat and polished. And so for me, I've learned that if there's something that's I might not be the best baker.
Yeah. And I think
for you,
one thing that we have both learned as we've been in business for a number of years is that when it doesn't align with our style, just say no.
Yeah.
It's not worth it because we're never going to meet the expectation.
Yeah. My menu when I first started was like 5 pages. I put literally everything I could ever bake on a menu page.
Wow, that's overwhelming to start with.
It was like the Cheesecake Factory menu. It was huge. It was just too much. And, it looked good for a minute. And then the reality of being able to offer all of that on a small scale.
Yeah.
I instantly, after that first year, I was like, okay. But I don't want people to think I can't bake it. So how do I market myself into,
I'm glad you share that because I obviously started the complete opposite. I have one recipe. Yeah. I built a 6-figure bakery on one recipe.
Yes.
One recipe. And for the life of me, I'm like, I can't sell another cookie to save my life.
Can I do something else, please?
Sometimes I like to bake other things.
Yes.
So it's funny that you share that because we both started from very different places. But I do believe to be successful, you cannot have an endless menu. And you do have to really pick where you want to focus. And then once you dial those in, you can expand.
And what sells? There could be a product that I absolutely love making and no one wants to buy it.
Yes. Thanks for sharing that.
So, what am I getting asked to do?
Yes.
What am I, and the trends, or what's a good margin? What this sells, but they don't make a lot of margin with the amount of time or the packaging that has to go into that. And for me, since I don't have a storefront, delivery.
Yes.
Everything is delivered.
Yeah. So I started out of my home as well. And let's talk about delivery because it is really interesting to think about. I started where I would meet the person. So then I would have to communicate and set up a scheduled time to meet them in a parking lot to hand off the product. And I started scaling and I was like, I don't have time for this. I literally don't have time. And while my family was like, well, we don't want all these people showing up at our house, which I get, but I was like, I can't be driving around. It was when right before I was like pregnant with my second kid. And I was like, I don't have time to deliver these products. Yeah. And so I set up a mailbox system. Yep. You remember my mailbox?
I love your mailbox system. I was like, yes, this is a great solution.
I just bought big mailboxes and put them on my porch and numbered them. Yep. And then I was like, your order's in number 1.
Yeah. Easy.
And then I moved into my space and it was like, okay, I have a commercial retail space, but I don't have retail hours. And so then I built a locker system and now I have outdoor lockers that people can grab their orders. So I don't have to be here.
Right.
So talk about your delivery system.
My delivery It's always evolving and it's hybrid, but I live just outside of town. So I do come into town almost every day.
Right.
And so with a lot of these orders, and the other thing is I don't take a lot of last minute orders. And if I do, I totally do sometimes, then the delivery is like, you're picking it up at this time. It's not as flexible.
Negotiable.
A lot of these orders I know what date, I know approximately what time they need it by. And so I group up a lot of things to make it more efficient. Okay, so I have an afternoon delivery. I'm going to do it and then go to the store, or I'm going to do it and then I have to drop off a wholesale order. So a lot of it, because some of my wholesale orders I can drop off whenever, if it's just a fill-in, and so I can loop that along. So I've gotten really good at grouping up these orders and delivering them. My husband has been wrangled into my delivery driver. My mom helps with my delivery. These are cakes, so they definitely need to be taken care of, but they're always boxed up and they're always delivered cold. And so for the most part, the success rate is great. So don't worry about that. I've also hired my sister. She helped me deliver. I did emergency pastry boxes during COVID.
Right.
And so she had, 15 boxes. Okay, you're going here. And then I also price, for the most part, my delivery fee in the cost of the cake.
Right.
I like X amount per mile, blah, blah, blah. It just got really confusing and complicated. So I kind of said, okay, if you're in this area, it's included in the cake, unless it's like, I need it at 7:30 in the morning. It's outside the normal delivery time. Mm-hmm. And then if there is some white salmon or the Dalles or somewhere, then there's going to be a little bit of a fee added onto it. Weddings are kind of a different animal as well. Those have a delivery fee and work with the venue, but
right. And then like for weddings, because it's usually bigger events, a lot of bakers will set like a minimum. Mm-hmm. Like is that something you consider, or how do you operate?
I don't. And how you mentioned when people hear weddings, they're like 20% more. I don't. I have, when I market my dessert tables or bars, I market it under a large event.
Okay.
Or a wedding. You can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
I don't care what it's called. I've had people ask about parties at this vineyard, and I'm like, you're having a wedding. It's okay.
I know, because they're afraid to say the word.
100%. And I don't play that game.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. That evolves too. I don't really have a minimum. I don't really have a price per person.
You just fit your schedule.
That's why you work with a custom baker, unless you just want to say, hey, I need a dessert and I'll pick these 3 things, which there's models out there that work. I'm like, what's your budget? Mm-hmm. How do we fit this in your budget? There's some people who say, I have this budget. I can't go over it. Mm-hmm. Dessert tables, you're going to need more than 1 item per person.
Yeah. Everybody wants a little sample of everything.
90% of the time when I'm putting it out there, depending on what time I'm setting up, I have Aunt Pam over there and Uncle Frank sneaking bites. I got the bridesmaids kids coming over sneaking cupcake. It's funny. So I always make extra. Some people take 1, some people take 3.
Yep.
And so this helps me, especially working with a couple. What is your budget? And then I have items that I call margin builders, or good, like cookies. Yep. They're inexpensive per person.
Yep.
You can do a big table of those, and then you can add like the higher dollar items like cheesecakes or dessert shooters that look really good, but you don't want 2 for everybody. But then that takes time to evolve and see what everyone, the budgets change.
Yeah. And I think part of building a bakery business is like leaning into those events and then figuring out what works in them. Like, wedding. I know nothing about weddings. I know cookies. I know that cookies don't always hit the mark at weddings. And that's why I've just been like, it's just not like, it's got to be for the right person.
Yes.
For my product.
Yep.
But I got those bridal showers.
Yes. Receptions.
Right?
And
yes. All of the pre-parties, post-parties. I'm there for it.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun to see where bakers lean in and know, and weddings. And that's really cool.
Yeah. I've been doing them for a while. And when I reflect back on it, like we were talking about the meme, it's like, 20 years ago, well, that's in the 80s. Wait, no.
I know.
So it's like, I've been doing weddings for over 10 years. Wait a minute. No, that's wow.
Yeah.
I have to say, we have some of the best wedding coordinators, venue managers. I have had such delight working, and I work with a lot of similar venues every year. And every year I have 1 or 2 new ones, which is great. But I just feel so comfortable with the people that I work with on the day of.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of couples that I talk to that are still looking for people. I'm like, oh, you should try this florist. These are amazing. And, And so I feel like there's a lot of local vendors that do that too, that kind of spread the word and we all kind of work with the same group. And it makes it so much easier when people there got your
Yeah.
back and they're promoting you, you're promoting them, everyone's happy.
Yes. You find your community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know we've spent quite a bit of time talking about different things and our conversation went in different directions, but let's bring it back to what would you share about like the community and like mutual care? You just shed some light into the wedding industry, but I really see East Fork Baking a stable part of our community. You're a wholesale baker. You're a custom baker. You provide for those destination weddings and those events, but that community is really our local community of collaborators. What part does community play in East Fork Baking from your perspective?
I think the biggest part is just knowing, even if a person doesn't buy your product, they're liking it. They're talking. They're like, did you see this picture? That was cool. I like that picture, even though I know they haven't ordered a cake. That's cool. It's just talking about it to know that, I see you, or I saw this picture of this person. So that's why I love living in a smaller community. I grew up in big communities. I went to school in a smaller community. So I've kind of feel like I've had the best of both worlds. Just having that support of your community and knowing, because you do know a lot of people that we provide baked goods to.
Yeah.
And so that to me is just, and then getting to know other bakers and having people just show up for you and you show up for them. And even if it's not buying their product, like you said, it's just that whole
it's the referral network. It's the literally when I have the order that I want to cry and I got it done and no one's going to know what I went through and I have no one to talk to. I call you.
Yes.
And like, Nikki, let me tell you what happened, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because those are the kind of things that no one else can get.
No. And doing it solo. So I do all of this. I don't have any employees. I don't pay anybody. I trade people and bake goods to help. I have a friend who has been amazing. Shout out to Sierra, who helps. She's helped me with deliveries on weddings. She's helped me package. She's helped me organize. She loves organizing. So that's been, and I am not that way. And so to have those people around you and then to find you and we have the same only bakers will understand type of moments has been just so nice because family hears it and they kind of tune it out after a while, or they just don't get like, why are you freaking out over your butter or the price of eggs?
Also, when there's a butter sale, you're the first to know.
We have a text train with ingredient prices.
Yeah.
So I think that's just, so that was something I wasn't looking for. And I'm so thankful we found it. I found it. Yeah.
Well, like I said, when I started Dani's Kitchen Shop, I had this vision that it was going to be a teaching kitchen and people were going to connect over food and we were going to help people have a better understanding of food, how to enjoy food, how to make food, and have confidence in the kitchen. But it wasn't until 4 years later that cookies really provided the foundation for that. But I continually am leaning back into my original business model. And that's why I built a commercial space, is so that I can really bring community together. And in the last year, I've really leaned into, because of people like you believing in me, the mentoring side of business. I love spreadsheets and I love business and I love efficiencies and I love systems. And I realized I could help a lot of people.
I'm so glad you did. You've helped me so much. My brain doesn't think that way. My brain is not on that island of organization.
And it's just the little things that I started from the beginning about, like, I've tracked every single cookie I've ever made. I've tracked every single dollar I've ever made. And it's like those little fun things. I've tracked every single student I've ever had. And it's those fun little things that I think are really fun and exciting. But then when I share them with people, they're like, well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Right. And so
for sure,
I really appreciate being able to have you to share some of that knowledge with and also tell me if it's useful or not.
Yeah. And for me, like I said, I didn't learn that side of this industry. I always was like, give me a project and I'll go do it. I love doing it. like staying busy. And so when I got into baking, I just wanted to bake. But then I'm like,
Right.
oh, well, if I'm going to do this as a job, I need to get my act together and figure out, like my husband always say, well, are you making money off that cake? How do you know? I'm like, because I paid all my bills and I paid myself and there's still some money
There's
left.
still money.
So that means I'm in the green, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how my brain worked at the beginning. And now I got to figure out, like you said, what makes sense.
Yeah.
How much is each thing costing? And we deal with food to where one week butter's $4.50 a pound, the next week is $3 a pound. Like how do you
building in margins so that we don't have to change our price.
Yeah.
Like I try to
Yes.
set a price that I can work off of for like at least a quarter.
That was my question. Do you set prices every year? Do you set them quarterly? How do you feel like?
Yeah. So honestly, my wholesale work, I try to set for the year. I try to build in enough margin that I can ride the highs and lows of ingredient costs in reality without having to make huge adjustments. But really quarterly, I try to sit down and make sure my margins are in check. And it's hard. It's hard to take the time to do that, but it's worth it. And it's funny because I was helping one of my students and we did it together. We did a basic cake and we priced it. We weighed all the ingredients. We got the per ounce price of every ingredient, did all the work, did it start to finish the way you should. We timed ourselves and I came to the price of the cake and it was like $130 is what this cake should cost. And I was like, I don't know cakes. I was like, is that right? And the baker I'm working with was like, that seems kind of high. And I said, let's call Nikki.
Yep.
And I literally called you and you were like, actually, my cake for that starts at 120.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yep.
We are not completely off track when you take into account all of the things. And what I like to remind people is that if we're not making a profit margin, how are we ever going to stay in business?
Yes.
So,
and in this whole formula, and I had to figure this out before I met you. I wish we met 5 years earlier. I had no idea what to charge. I would go to the grocery store. Okay, what are they charging for their cake? And I looked at that and I'm like, I can't do that for that price and make money. But at the same time, at the beginning, I was just taking money, $20 for a dozen cupcakes. It was practice for me. It was pay my ingredients.
Yeah. You had a full-time job.
I had a full-time job. I wasn't doing this as an income supporter at the beginning.
So I started like that too. And I like to say that, well, I did all the pricing and I knew what I had into it. I didn't really know what I had into it in terms of time and overhead. I missed a lot of the things, right? But I knew what my actual like ingredient costs were. And I was like, okay, then I just picked a number. But at the end of the day, it was a hobby, it was a side gig, and it didn't have to pay the bills. It was fun money.
Yeah. Well, and at the beginning too, it's taken you twice as long back then than it does now, or more than it does now. And so I can't charge people $300 for that cake because it took me a day to decorate, where now it takes me 20 minutes. Yeah. So there's that. You have to that eventually you're going to get money back on the labor end of it because you're going to get more efficient at it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it has been absolutely wonderful talking with you. I do want to, I want you to talk to an upcoming baker that is passionate about baking and maybe where you and I started. It's a hobby. What would you tell them?
Keep going. Keep going. Believe in yourself. Remember why you're doing this.
100%.
Remember why. Like, you are baking because you enjoy it. Whether you enjoy the end product of it, you enjoy the process of it.
Yeah.
And when you start turning that into generating income, there's that stress. And sometimes, like for me, I have to step back and be like, you can go get another job.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? And I remember, I really like doing this.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to shut all that noise around you and get back in your baking bubble is what I call it. And the second thing is, it's okay to chase trends to get that business, but have a good center of what your single product or multiple products are.
Yeah, I think dialing in your core menu, your core products that you are really good at, you can be known for, is like the way to start.
Yes.
And then you can expand as you go from there. And I also think that it's okay to just be a hobby baker.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
You don't have to go all in.
No. Get extra coffee money, extra play money, and go do a night out, and it's a win-win. So
I think at the end of the day, I jumped in full time for the flexibility.
yes.
And I have to remind myself that that's why I did it, and that sometimes I just have to walk away from the bakery
Mm-hmm.
because the kids need me. And that was why I did this.
Right.
So remember your why.
Yeah. And, it's about, and I feel like be okay with the evolution of it.
Yeah.
Your life is evolving. Your kids get older. Things
Mhm.
like now I can work more in the afternoon because
Mhm.
they're older and I don't need to watch them, or
Yeah.
more in the evening. So it's just that evolution of, and you have the flexibility because it's your business or your
Yeah.
things, whether that's yearly, you kind of reassess it, or every couple months, like, okay, what's working? What's not?
Yeah. I think I run my business on quarters because I refuse to commit more than 90 days out because of my kids. And I don't know what sports they're going to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what their sports schedule is going to be. And I have found that that model is so nice.
I've been booking weddings for next year.
No.
And that's just, it's great. But I also,
But that's because you're in the wedding industry. You have
yes.
to. If you're going to be in that type of industry, you don't have a
Yes.
choice.
No.
That's
I
that
mean,
industry.
I'm pretty much booked for weddings for this summer. And I don't do weddings every weekend. So I pick and
Mhm.
choose what weekends, working around what I already have, or,
Yeah.
life and school and
Camping.
Yeah.
The important stuff.
Yes.
So
That's why we do it.
that's why we do it. Well, I appreciate you joining us, and thanks for sharing about East Fork Baking. And if you're ever in Hood River, hit us up.
Thanks, Dani.
Thanks, Nikki.